A total relative frequency table is a two-way frequency table that displays percentages or ratios, also known as the relative frequencies, which is what we talked about in the last lesson, instead of just the frequency counts. So this is a normal two-way frequency table. This just gives you the frequency counts. We want to create a total relative frequency table given this two-way frequency table. And how we do that is we just convert all of these into percentages. So Dallas and car, I take 6 and I divide it by my total, which is 30. And now I convert that into a percentage. So 6 divided by 30 and then times 100 gives us 20%. All right, and we do that for each cell. So Dallas in the train would be 3 out of 30 people, and 3 divided by 30 people times 100 gives us 10% of people who live in Dallas took the train. All right, Dallas and walking, that's 2 out of 30 people. Which 2 out of 30 people times 100 gives you approximately equal to 6. Now I'm just going to do whole percentages here. So let's just do 7%. And then the total is 11 out of 30. Which is approximately equal to 37%. Now if you add up your percentages in that first row, 20 plus 10 plus 7% does give you 37%. All right, now we're going to do the next row here. 1 out of 30. Is approximately 3%. And then 3 out of 30, we don't have to use our calculator on this one because we've already done that, and the row right above it. And then 2 out of 30, same thing. I don't have to do that one in my calculator either. And then 6 out of 30. And then you should notice that 3 plus 10 plus 7 does give us the 20% in that New York row. All right, now we're going to do the Chicago row. So I have 2 out of 30 for the car, which is going to be about a 7%. And then in the train for Chicago, I have 6 out of 30, which is 20%. In the walking row, I have 5 out of 30, which is about 17%. And then in the total row for Chicago, I have 13 out of 30, which is about 43%. Now, I want to point this out, that if I do add a 7 plus a 20 plus a 17, it doesn't equal 43, it equals 44. However, the reason why it doesn't quite add up in this row is because we rounded in 3 of our cells here. So that's why it may not have completely added to this total column, or to this total row of 43%. And that's okay. That's fine. All right. So now I'm going to do my total row. So I have a 9 out of 30. which gives me 30%. Whoops, let me read that. Which, if you look at the car column, 20 plus 3 plus 7 does give you 30. So that works out nicely. And then in my train column, 12 out of 30. Gives you 40%. And then in my walk column, 9 out of 30. Gives you 30%. And if we notice in the walk column, if I do 7 plus 7 plus 17, that gives you 31%. So again, that's because of rounding issues. That's why it didn't work out that nicely. But in my overall total, I should have 30 out of 30, which gives me 100%. And if you add the total column, 37 plus 20 plus 43, that does give you 100. And if you add the total row, 30 plus 40, does give you 100%. So you should wind up with 100% in that very last total. So these are your relative frequencies. And so now, and this is called the total relative frequency table. It's always given in percentages or ratios. Now we're going to look back at that train column again. Looking at the train column here, it says, would it be fair now to say that according to the survey, more people ride the train in Chicago compared to New York? Why or why not? Well, it's still not going to be fair. Because yes, it seems like 20% of the people are living in Chicago and took the train. And only 10% of the people are living in New York and took the train. However, if we look at the amount of people that were surveyed in New York, out of the total amount of people surveyed, only 20% of the people lived in New York, whereas 43% of the people lived in Chicago. So we surveyed way more people in Chicago than we did in New York. So we can't really make the conclusion that more people ride the train in Chicago because we didn't survey as many people in New York as we did in Chicago. So I'm going to have you read this to yourself. I'm not going to read it to you. Now there is a way that we can figure out the answer to this question, and we will be talking about that in the next lesson. So please view the next video for the next lesson.